When we experience self-doubt, it can be paralyzing. The mind questioning, imposter syndrome, as it's popularly named, those thoughts that are wondering, questioning you, questioning your actions, questioning your decisions. Let's look at the surprising root of self-doubt, the conscious, spiritual understanding to help you to free yourself of the debilitating, power-robbing experience of self-doubt. You face a crossroads. You're experiencing some kind of suffering or stress, but you can't find your way through. You feel stuck. You feel paralyzed. Things aren't clear because this thing called self-doubt is in the way. It can be extremely valuable to understand where self-doubt is rooted. Like pulling a weed out of a vegetable garden. If we just cut the top off, we don't remove the root. By understanding the root of self-doubt, we can work with it in a much more conscious way. So let's bring some wisdom to your self-doubt. Here are 3 important concepts that I'm going to be unpacking for you. The first is that doubt is rooted in the body's mind. And there's some surprising understandings to offer here. The second is we're going to be looking at how doubt is linked to integrity. And the third is to have a little bit of a look-see at why old souls tend to doubt the most. Most people aren't aware of the fact that the body has its own intelligence, its own operating system. You'll certainly feel how this is true when you feel that fight or flight adrenaline response, or if you notice the reflex that the body has without any conscious intervention on your part. But what if I said to you that thoughts can stream from the body-mind, and that you can change radio stations to discover thoughts that stream intuitively from your deeper wisdom, from your soul? Now, before this sounds very abstract and ungrounded, think about the fact that when you have an intuitive insight, the texture of the thought actually feels different to the daily chatter of the mind. True? So self-doubt tends to be sourced in this surface body mind. If you think of mind as having many stations, many channels, many radio stations, from the surface all the way to the depth of clarity. When we're doubting, when we're in conflict, when there feels like this push-pull, confusion, it's accompanied by a contracted feeling, isn't it? Like a heaviness in the body and a tightening in the mind, as if the mind, heart, and gut are closed somehow, or more closed. That's a clue that the thoughts that are coming to us, that of course you may have very well identified with and thought of as you, those thoughts are actually streaming from the body's mind and from the surface mind, if you prefer that language. Now, if you think of it this way, if you approach it this way, it gives you a little bit of distance. You start to go, oh, this doubt, these doubting thoughts, this conflicted, tight, contracted, textured thought actually is rising from the surface of my mind. And that immediately gives you a choice. It immediately opens the possibilities in the space. I don't have to identify with this. I don't have to say, I am my doubt. Instead, a doubt has arisen in me. These contracted thoughts are rising in me. I am not in the contracted thoughts. Can you feel the difference? The second key insight is this. Instead of seeing doubting thoughts and self-doubt as an obstacle to get rid of, what if I told you that your doubt was coming from a place of integrity? Because surely if you weren't an integrous person, if you didn't care about the consequences of your choices, if you didn't care about life, if you didn't have reverence to want to tread in this world in a way with respect and conscious intention, you wouldn't doubt. Some of the most dangerous, destructive minds on this planet have no doubt. They're 100% sure. There's no room for questioning. This is an invitation to take your doubt, which feels like a very paralyzing, debilitating experience, and it can be that, of course, but to put it in your hands and treat it with some kind of respect or love, because you appreciate that where it's coming from is a place of integrity. Notice how by seeing that, your relationship with self-doubt is already starting to shift, is it not? And finally, if we appreciate that our souls are on these beautiful journeys and that our souls have been learning and learning and learning and learning, we might also say that, like young children on a playground that fight over the spades and that are driven a lot by ego and the primitive body mind, as I mentioned earlier, is actually dominant for the most part, right? It's the older souls that have been around the block, that have played the game so many times, that are usually the ones with that integrity and with a conflict between the body mind and the deeper wisdom that is wanting to whisper through the conflicted contraction. The only thing is that your wisdom and your soul will never grab the microphone. It doesn't have an agenda like that. It doesn't have a I need to be right ego texture to it. So it tends to be that the older souls with the most wisdom also tend to be plagued with the integrity and the contradiction or the contrast between the body mind and deeper wisdom and intuitive knowing, and feel torn between the two. So what can we do to support ourselves when we are experiencing crippling self-doubt? I would suggest the following transformations that you coach yourself, that you guide yourself through, that you meditate on, and that you practice mindfulness on. That you switch from a body-mind dominance to a soul-mind dominance without this being esoteric and too woo-woo. We want to keep one foot on the ground. This means consciously learning how to change radio stations from body-mind, surface mind FM to go after your deeper wisdom. Because your deeper wisdom is going to resolve doubt. Not in a way that brings arrogant, ego-based certainty. It has a different texture, but in a way that is about clear seeing. Because when you see clearly, when the lights get switched on in the dark room, doubt is no longer even a question. You just walk through the room. It's when the room is dark and you can't see what you're doing and you're fumbling that doubt is an issue. So we access our wisdom to turn on those inner lights. I also recommend that you appreciate that doubt's coming from a place of integrity. In my Inner Life Skills Master Coaching work, we call this looking for the positive intention. looking for the valid reason for something's existence. So when we see our doubt rising, we thank it for coming from a place of integrity, and we ask ourselves, what is the positive, valid reason for this questioning? And we include that in our meditation, we include that in our self-coaching, and we are mindful of that. That alone has a powerful, alchemical, transformative approach and effect on self-doubt. And instead of being an older soul with so much wisdom held back like a well in the desert that's blocked with rocks, build your wisdom well and give voice and presence to your wisdom, so that self-doubt can live there with a place of honor because it comes from integrity. We appreciate that it's coming from a limited surface mind. And we bring the water of our wisdom to that surface mind to heal.